Welcome to the Explainer. So, when you think about money, you probably think about spending it or maybe saving it, right? But what if its most important job is something we barely even notice? Today, we're going to dig into this idea that money's real superpower is being a stable, unchanging ruler for measuring wealth. Okay, so let's kick things off with a question that sounds super simple on the surface, but it's actually one of the trickiest problems in all of economics. And the question is this: how do we really know if we're getting richer? All right, to figure this out, let's dive into a classic thought experiment. It's called the merchant's dilemma. So picture this. You've got a merchant. At the start of the day, his inventory looks like what you see here. He's got some rope, some rum, apples, you get the idea. But after a full day of buying and selling, his stock has totally changed. Yeah, he's got more rum and an extra motorcycle, which is great, but he's also got fewer apples, a lot fewer screws, and even a couple fewer cows. So here's the big question. Is this guy actually richer at the end of the day? I mean, how do you even calculate that? He's got more of some things, less of others. You can't just add motorcycles to apples and subtract screws, right? How do you get one single number that tells you if he's better off or not? Well, one way to tackle this is to just pick one thing and use it to measure everything else. In economics, they have a fancy word for this. They call it a numerario. But for us, let's just say it's our measuring stick. And for the sake of argument, let's use screws. Okay, so what we could do is price everything in his inventory: the rum, the rope, the cars, all of it in terms of screws. We'd calculate the total screw value of his stuff in the morning and then do it again at the end of the day. And this is where things get really weird. Because look what happens. If we measure his total wealth using screws, the number goes way up. It looks like he's richer. But what if we decided to use cars as our measuring stick instead? Well, then his total value actually goes down. Now it looks like he's poorer. So, how can that be? How can he be both richer and poorer at the exact same time? It just doesn't make sense, right? It's a total contradiction. The problem, and this is the key, is that our measuring stick itself wasn't stable. The value of a screw compared to the value of a car changed during the day. Maybe a big construction project started nearby, and suddenly everyone needed screws, making them more valuable. At the same time, maybe a new shipment of cars arrived, making them less valuable. See the problem? You're trying to measure with a ruler that's stretching and shrinking all day long. And that actually brings us to a really great analogy for this whole problem. Let's call it the changing ruler. Yeah, trying to measure value with something whose own value is bouncing all over the place, like screws or cars, is exactly like that. It's like trying to build a house with a tape measure that keeps changing its length. Any measurement you take is going to be completely useless. Think about it like this. In the morning, you measure a piece of wood and it's 5 meters long. Simple enough. But then in the afternoon, you measure the exact same piece of wood, and now it says it's 10 meters long. Did the wood just magically double in size? Of course not. What really happened is that the definition of a meter got cut in half. So those 10 new meters are really the same length as the 5 old meters. You haven't gained a thing. And that is exactly the trap our merchant fell into. He saw a bigger number when he measured in screws, but he has no way of knowing if his stuff is actually more valuable, or if the screws he was measuring with just became cheaper, worth less. So this whole confusion, mixing up the number of something with its actual value, has a name. It's a really important concept in economics, and it's called the money illusion. The money illusion is basically that trick our brains play on us. We see a bigger number, more dollars, more pesos, whatever, and we automatically think, great, I'm richer. But we forget to ask the most important question: what can that number actually buy? I mean, we've all been there, right? You get a raise at work, you see that bigger number on your paycheck, and you get that little jolt of excitement. Yes, I'm doing better. But hold on, what if your raise was, say, 3%? But at the same time, the price of everything, your rent, your groceries, gas for your car, went up by 5%. Yeah, you have more dollars, but your actual power to buy stuff, your purchasing power, has gone down. You're actually poorer. And look, this isn't just some academic theory. This happens in the real world with actual money. Just look at the Venezuelan bolivar. People might have stacks of cash, literally millions more bolivars than they had a few years ago. But are they richer? No way. They're far, far poorer, because the value of that money has been completely wiped out. It proves the point.
Having more money means nothing if the money itself is a broken, changing ruler. Okay, so this brings us to the real takeaway, the big so what of all this. Why is having a stable measure of value, a stable form of money, so absolutely essential for a prosperous society?
Well, when money's value is stable, it finally becomes that reliable ruler we've been talking about. It becomes a trustworthy unit of account. And with that, everyone in the economy can accurately measure and compare the value of, well, everything, from an hour of labor to a new car.
Because think about it, with a stable measuring stick, prices can actually do their job. They send out clear, reliable information about what society actually wants and needs. If the price of apples goes up, it really means people want more apples. It doesn't mean the dollar just got weaker. And that signal tells producers, hey, make more apples. This allows for complex economic calculation. It lets millions of us coordinate our actions with each other across huge distances and even across time without ever meeting. And that is the true foundation of large-scale economic prosperity. And here's the beautiful part. When money is stable, something amazing happens. Maximizing your own monetary profit becomes the very same thing as maximizing the value you're creating for society. The pursuit of personal wealth gets perfectly aligned with the goal of making things that other people genuinely want and need. So that leaves us with one final pretty heavy question to think about. If the very ruler we use to measure value is constantly changing, how can we ever hope to build an economy or a society that's meant to last? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.